Hello and welcome. I'm Jessica Mays from Mays Consulting. I'm a B2B marketing training and consultant, and I provide free and paid training via my website, jessicamays.com. Today, I'm excited to interview April Keating, who is the founder of Creative Content Co. April is a Mompreneur, which means she is a military spouse, a mom, and an entrepreneur. She's joining us today to talk about something she knows a lot about: email newsletter marketing. So people that read the things that I post on the blog or the trainings that I put together know that I advocate for 10 different things that every business, particularly B2B business, should be doing as part of their marketing plan. And having an email newsletter is one of those things. And so that's why I'm excited for our chat today, April, so that you can give me and give those listening to our conversation today some tips, some tricks. This is an area that you have spent a lot of time in and have some expertise around. So I'd like to thank you for being here and taking the time to share some information about email newsletters in a marketing plan.
I'm truly honored. Thank you for asking me to be on your show.
Oh, you bet. So you focus, there's probably several things you focus on, but one of the things you focus on is supporting companies in their success with email newsletters. Can you share how and why you landed or backed into, or however you got to that niche?
Well, it really was kind of backed into and landed. I first started my business because I'm a military spouse and figured out that a career, like a traditional career and military life, were not two things that went together very well. So I decided to kind of call my own shots a little bit, and I had no idea really how to be an entrepreneur, but drew upon the experience that I had and launched my business as a virtual assistant. And you may recall that, Jessica. We go way back.
We do go way back, yes.
And so I did that for, I don't know, a couple years. And then I just was having a really hard time. You know, I was like a jack of all trades and master of none, kind of. And I wanted to narrow my focus and do less things. And when I did that, I kind of rebranded and wanted to get the word out to the people that I knew and the network I did have. And in doing so, I trialed 2 or 3 different email marketing platforms. And the one that worked the best for me at that time was Constant Contact. And so I signed up for an account and created my newsletter to announce my rebrand, all that great stuff. And then, as was the practice back then, I'm not exactly sure if they still do this, but because I had signed up for a new account, the folks at Constant Contact reached out to me, asked me about my business and what I was planning to, how I was planning to use email marketing and all those things. And I ended up signing up as a solution partner with them. And so that was all well and good, went on for another couple years, and moved, I don't know, for probably the second or third time since I had started my business. And I was in a new place. I was struggling to find clients. And I looked at that program I was a part of, and I thought, they have some really great resources and some great support. So I think I'm really going to take advantage of that. And I leaned into it. I learned what they had to teach me. I connected with the people there. And it really was a time when I grew my business as a result of that partnership. And so it was then that I decided I was going to niche into email marketing, and that was going to be it. And that's really kind of a unique take for a business, because most marketing consultants do more than just email marketing. But I could see the value from that very first time when I rebranded and I sent out an email to what at the time was a very small list, but it worked magically. And, and I got into an email marketing account for very little money, and I got a lot of response from what I did. And so I could see the value very clearly from the beginning. So from there, when I leaned into that partnership, I actually started teaching classes about email marketing, conducting workshops, leading workshops, and also managing campaigns for businesses. So that's been about 6 years now I've been doing that.
I love that. And you hit on so many nuggets. Something I talk about so often is that marketing, I often will say marketing doesn't have to be expensive and it doesn't have to be complicated. And, look, as you grow and as you kind of get good at marketing or have some results or whatever, you can start getting a little more complicated and, investing more money, but you definitely don't have to throw a lot of money at marketing when you're first, when you're first really getting serious about your marketing. Like, we're going to market and we're going to analyze the results, and then we're going to take our next action based on those results. And so email marketing has been such a superb piece of marketing for businesses because it's effective. People will get results if they put a plan together and they execute on it and they stay consistent. And you don't break the bank as you're trying to figure out what the heck are we doing with this, and should we send the newsletter once a month or once a week, and just things like that. So I think it's fantastic that you've niched into email marketing because, first of all, it's just such an important piece of all marketing plans. And then most people don't dig doing marketing the way that we do necessarily. And so to be able to reach out to someone like you is just invaluable for a company. Yeah. Now, when I looked at your website as I was preparing for our conversation, you've got a heading that really jumped out at me, and it says sales start with relationships. And if that doesn't just sum things up, regardless of whatever the topic is that I'm talking about in these interviews, whatever that thing is, it's a means to the end, which is creating relationships. And so I'm going to go a hair off script real quick because I didn't expect to see that heading, but it really ties in nicely. And so I will just ask you, in your experience, how does an email newsletter help a business build relationships?
So I always say, now, granted, we have moved a lot, about every 2 years. And so when I talk about local, I get that, sometimes your local is very temporary, but I always say there's no replacement for the handshake and a smile. So I love it when a relationship begins at a networking event or, something like a luncheon or a nonprofit support gala or something like that. I love it when relationships begin there. But after you leave that event, what happens then? And that's where a lot of people, I don't want to say fall short, because that's really not it, but continuing what you started. How do you do that? And how do you do it in a way that's sustainable, especially for, again, I have a virtual business. I can work with people anywhere. But I've just been really lucky with building personal networks in a community and it helping me to connect with people nationwide. And so taking that first handshake and a smile and kind of turning it into a virtual relationship building scenario where, okay, we met at this event and we talked about this thing, So I offered you some suggestions, like we talked about your business, you had some challenges, and I offered up suggestions based upon my expertise and knowledge. So if you found value in that, I do send other things that, other pieces of information, resources, tools, lots of great stuff that other business owners find useful. If that's something that you would also find useful, do you want me to add you to my email list? Because then we can continue to get to know each other, and please add me to yours. So I'm kind of like using a little bit of a dialogue here, right? But please add me to yours as well, because then I can learn more about what you do and how it can help me or help my friends. It becomes a collaboration, and it's kind of that we're in this together kind of mentality. We support each other. So it really is a way to continue that relationship past the handshake and a smile, and doing it in a virtual way that's more sustainable, even if you move, if your locations change.
Very good. So yeah, it's a great way to build on the relationship. And I often tell businesses, your crowd is going to engage with you, buy from you, whatever it is you're in the business of doing. They're going to take action when they're ready to, not when you're ready for them to. So by way of doing that newsletter, you're giving them something of value on a regular basis. But what you're really doing from a strategic standpoint is you're staying in their mind, so that if this happens to be the day, the week, the month, the year that they're finally ready, all they have to do is hit reply and get things rolling. So it's such a great way to continue on building that relationship, don't you think?
Absolutely. I get a lot of questions, I guess, about open rates and click rates. And, really, I have seen with the clients I work with, there has been a bit of a decrease. I mean, I'm not going to try and sugarcoat it. There has been a bit of a decrease. And it's just because we're inundated with information, all of us, on a daily basis. However, I still feel that there is a lot of value because over 90% of the time so if I'm a business and I send out a newsletter to my subscribers, over 90% of those recipients are going to get my newsletter in their inbox. The other less than 10%, there's a bounce or something happens. But over 90% of the time, I land in that recipient's inbox. Now, whether that recipient chooses to open my email or not, they still can see my name, my business, my subject line as they skim through their inbox and decide what messages they're going to open or not. So, I mean, yes, we really would like for people to open our emails, but there's still that top of mind value when you at least land in their inbox and they see you. It reminds them, it triggers their memory about who you are, maybe where they met you, maybe some piece of valuable advice you gave them, something along those lines.
Yeah, absolutely. Really good stuff. And to your point, so say email doesn't pack the punch it did a few years ago, and maybe it does in your market, and maybe it does, and maybe it doesn't. It probably varies for all sorts of industries. But that's why you diversify. That's why you also consistently use LinkedIn to build your relationships, and you put together case studies, and you go to events and exhibit. Email marketing is not the be all and end all. It's something that should be a piece of pie that makes up the whole.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, very good. So there's going to be people listening who are already doing a newsletter and are just interested to hear what we have to say, how it checks out against what they're doing, maybe pick up some tips. There's also going to be people that have never done this before. They're just getting started, or they're revisiting because there's this, I did it 2 years ago and I haven't done it since then type of a thing. So if you wouldn't mind, share a few tips for making the most out of sending an email newsletter. And let's start with, in the interest of time, one absolute do this and one absolute do not do this?
Absolutely. So I would say the first thing on do this is to think about the content you're sending from your reader's perspective. And when I'm teaching classes, I often refer to this as everyone's favorite radio station is WIIFM, which means what's in it for me. Whether people realize it or not, when they look, again, we're all inundated with information. And when we're looking at things, that's really the deciding factor in the back of our head is, what does this mean for me? Why should I open it? Why should I read it? Why should I care? So thinking about the content you're sending from your reader's perspective, not necessarily what you would want to hear, but what they would want to hear. Or that what you find valuable, but what they find valuable. If you know your target market, which you should, if you don't, you really need to work on figuring out who that is and what their challenges are that you're solving, what value you're providing to that target market, and speaking very eloquently as to how you can help them solve that problem or overcome that challenge. And then another piece of it is what Pat Flynn refers to as the small, quick win. And that's really just putting in, kind of like a how-to. If you do these things, then you'll get this result like nearly immediately. So then if somebody reads it and they do those things and they get that win, like they get a result almost immediately, it is like an instant credibility builder for you. So thinking about your content from the reader's perspective. That would be my number one do. And then for number one don't is also around content, and that is don't fill your email newsletter with sales pitches. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're after as a business, right? Is we have to make money in order to stay in business. However, if you think about it as an email consumer, right? Do you like to be sold to? Do you like to open an email that's at, saying, buy this, do this, join me here, but you got to pay this registration fee? I mean, thinking about it from, in this respect, you are thinking about it from how you would look at it as an email consumer. So one of the things I like to say is serve before selling. So put a lot of great information into your newsletters to the point where people think, oh my gosh, if their content is their free stuff is this good, how awesome must their paid stuff be?
Yeah, that's great. I like that a lot. I was thinking, as you were talking about your do's and your don'ts, I was visualizing newsletters that I get, and then know thy audience. There's a particular newsletter I get where the person always, they tell you something useful, but then they always, kind of bring it back to themselves and tell you something about themselves. And it just annoys me. And then, the salesy, don't be so salesy, because let's think about it. Typically when you sign up for a newsletter, it wasn't, sign up for our newsletter where we send you links to buy stuff. If you want to go down that path, there's probably other paths that they're going to be able to engage with you. You know what I mean? So when somebody signs up for a newsletter, they were under the guise that you called it updates, you called it you called it an educational piece, or you called it something that led them to believe it was going to be this more content-driven thing than sales-driven thing. So I love that. So, for people listening, what you have to understand is the email newsletter, it's an important piece. It's a relationship builder. It is not the thing that is going to directly, make you a whole bunch of money. It's the thing that helps you solidify your yourself or your company as a thought leader in your space, as an expert, as a company that can be trusted, and things like that. And so it's going to get you some sales for sure. But because it's doing all that serving that you were talking about, April, rather than selling.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, this has been fantastic info. I am confident that people listening, well, I just said I have ideas swirling around, and I have no doubt anyone listening has ideas swirling around about things if they're currently doing this, maybe some things they'll tweak or try or whatever. And if they're just going to get started with this, just some ideas on how to get started. So in an effort to help people clarify next steps and more importantly, take action, what is something that people can do right now to execute on the tips that you've shared with us today? Is there a resource they should go check out? Is there just something they should go do? What do you recommend they do to take action on the info?
So a couple suggestions along with resources. So first of all, if you're listening and you already have an email marketing strategy, that's awesome. One thing that's kind of out of the box that I might suggest you do is go out and find a couple of your most engaged subscribers and do a personal reach out to them. And it's not a sales call. It's just, reaching out to them saying, hey, I see, I'm really glad you're a subscriber. What do you think of the content? Is it helpful to you? Is it providing value? Have you implemented anything I've suggested? And if so, what are the results? And then ask them too, like, how's business going? What kind of challenges are you seeing? It really is, you care about their business, and I hope you do, and they can feel that. But at the same time, you are gathering information that can help you further refine your products and services. So that's if you have an existing email marketing strategy in place. If you're not currently using email marketing, I would suggest you take a look at how you're staying in touch with people, with those potential and current customers, and how you're asking for referrals. So if you have something in place to stay in touch with them and it's keeping your pipeline full, that's awesome. But if it's not working and you don't, or you don't have a follow-up process, I encourage you to give email marketing a try. So along those lines, I will give you the link, Jessica, to a page on my website. It's not in the navigation, so but it's a download page, and it has a couple things on it. One is it's kind of like a checklist for email newsletter anatomy. So it kind of helps you step through, okay, so it should have this, it should have this, it should have this. Just basic. But it can help you kind of look at it and say, oh, okay, so maybe I'll tweak this or whatever. And then the other thing is an email writing prompts sheet. So I know that's one thing that really it can be a challenge for folks, is figuring out what's put into their email newsletter. So this might provide you with some ideas and inspiration that you can look at. So that's it. My website is creative8ve.com/downloads for those. And then if you want to give email marketing a try, you can sign up for a free 60-day trial of Constant Contact just to check it out, see how it works, feels, how you can implement it for yourself. And I'll give you the link for that, Jessica, but it's creative.constantcontact.com/signup.jsp, which is a mouthful. So
yeah, maybe why don't you put that in, send that link to me through our messaging on LinkedIn or something, and then I can copy paste it into the show notes.
For sure. Absolutely. We'll do that.
That would be great. As I just said, below the recording, you're going to see the links that April's referred to, so that you can get your hands on the downloads. I've already gone to the page, and there's a couple things here. And then also she'll have a different link so that you could try Constant Contact if you don't have an email marketing software yet. That's every business should be doing email marketing. And every email marketing software, they're incredibly competitive these days. And so pretty much all of them offer a free, I was gonna say free sample because I was at Costco this morning, but free trial. And that is just, that's a no-brainer because, even if it's like, well, I'm doing constant contact. Well, so what? Wait 60 days before you start paying for it. Just, you know, just do it. So a free trial is just a no-brainer. So if you, even if you already have the software and you want to see what something else is all about, I mean, there's just no risk in it. And, this whole question started at what kind of action can I take right now? Well, go do that. That would be huge because April was sitting where you are sitting, and you're going to sign up and you're going to start getting these emails to get you rolling, or you can engage with April and get going with some help, whatever it's going to take to get you going. But you have to take that first step. So these are fantastic resources. And like I said, I will have them available under the recording so that people can grab those. April's web address is very creative, but it's like a mouthful for me. And so it's CRE8, the number VE.com, creative. And I love it. It is super creative. But for some reason, I get to that 8 and my brain scrambles. So I just have to type it for them, April, and then they'll be sure to get where they're supposed to go.
For sure. Yeah, people have trouble with my URL.
Yeah, but it's a thinker, as David Spade. I watched the David Spade show, and he always has one joke, and he says, that's a thinker. So April, today's conversation has been awesome. I really, really thank you. As you said, we go way, way back, and so I know that you know this stuff inside and out. I know you have a ton of passion around it. We'll figure out a way to have you back so we can talk about your Milla Mompreneur life, because that's it's a very cool thing, and I think people are very interested in that too. So that's a whole other 30-minute conversation, don't you think?
Or more, yeah.
or more. So yeah, so we'll probably meet again for another chat. But until then, thank you so much for your time today.
No problem. Thank you so much.